Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to call the Board of Adjustment to order. First, let me announce any decision of this board is considered final. If there's anyone aggrieved by the decision of the board, they may appeal to circuit court within 15 days of the board's decision. Also, no permits or license can be issued during that 15-day appeal period until that 15-day period has expired and no appeal has been filed. For information regarding the board's decision or an appeal circuit court, Office of Land Use Administration will be your contact. As you come to the board, I'll ask that you give us your name and address for the record. I would ask everyone at this time put your phones on silent or off so that we don't have a disturbance. Also for the board as well. There's a 5-minute limitation for speakers, 5 in support of a variance request, 5 in opposition. And we'll start with roll call, and then I'll go over the rest of the remaining rules. All right, Mr. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Golden.
Here.
Mr. Metcalf. Mr. Milling. Mr. Carroll. Absent. Mr. Morris. I'm William Guest. There are 6 members present. It takes 5 members to affirm a motion. Therefore, we have a quorum, and we will proceed with the meeting. Adoption of the agenda. Chair, entertain a motion. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The agenda is adopted as presented. Back to the rules. 4 people can, as I mentioned, can come up and give statements in support of an application or variance request, and 4 in opposition. If you have more than 4 people, either way, please pick your 4 in advance, and then you have a 5-minute time limit for any kind of statements. The applicant will then be given an opportunity for a rebuttal, which is a 2-minute time limit. The staff keeps track of the time and will let you know when your time's expired. Also, all your comments are directed to the board. If we have to ask a question of the staff or of an applicant or anyone that speaks, we will let you know at that time. And we will proceed in order of the agenda. And the first application is 6446, 4514, 5288 Todd Acres Drive. Good afternoon. Your name and address, please.
Anna Ferry, 5288 Todd Acres Drive.
Okay, and your application is recommended for denial.
Right.
And are you wishing to proceed with the application?
No.
You wish to withdraw your application?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But I have some time to speak.
You may proceed then.
Thank you. My husband just got out of the hospital, so he's unable to attend this meeting. Our request was all about our grandson, Malik, who, as we said in our application, has CP. He's totally helpless. I was going to bring him today so that you could see just how helpless he is. Our son and daughter-in-law need our help with him. They need an ADA compliant home for him, and we would like to provide that for him. Unfortunately, because of our neighbors, we're not able to get the variance to put in a kitchen on our addition. I do have a question, however. If we don't put in a kitchen and have an access to this addition from inside our home, will we be able to add this to our home?
Okay, that'll be a question for staff.
The second dwelling unit requires to have separate facilities for cooking. So from a zoning perspective, a variance would not be required if there is only one facility for cooking on the property. The other issue would be the definition of family per the zoning ordinance. As long as there were no more than 4 unrelated people staying on the site. Now, in terms of the proposed addition, I don't know if the vertical would require a variance because the previous court-approved variance was for single story. This is a second story.
But this would just be an addition.
But it is a change to what the court approved.
So to whom do we apply for a permit? Just the building?
Turn the mic back.
If I was unaware there's a prior variance for this property, so we would need to get a copy of the court order to see exactly what it states. And if this plan is in violation, then you would need to come back for a height variance, I guess. But if it's not in violation of the court order, then she would go to building permit.
And court order, what are you talking about?
There was
Back in 95.
Oh, my Lord. That again.
Those run with the land in perpetuity. Those run with the land in perpetuity. No, ma'am. It was in the city, or else it would not have come before this board.
I think at this point, your questions are something that you need to address with them. That is a separate meeting
Okay.
because it's unrelated to our business
Right,
today.
right. Okay.
All
So I am officially withdrawing.
Okay. If you hold that for a minute. Any questions? All right. Thank you. Sir, are you in support? The applicant's withdrawing her application.
I know I'm in opposition, and my attorney called me about an hour ago and said that all that we could do today is Ned Ferry was going to come here and withdraw his application for the variance. And so my attorney, I told him not to come, and so he's across the street. But
Okay. Your name and address for the record.
Thomas L. Calhoun, Calhoun, 4178 Todd
We have
Boulevard.
a protocol for the meeting. If you'll hold a second. Was there anyone else here in favor of the last application?
Time out. We have no application. She's withdrawing it.
Withdrawing.
Yeah.
Correct.
So there's no reason for have a lawyer here or anybody else to speak. There's nothing on our agenda anymore.
Yeah, this
I
application's withdrawn.
apologize
No.
to the board for being out of order, but I couldn't even hear what was being said.
Okay. All right. Well, the applicant's withdrawn her application. Therefore, we don't have any other discussion related to this application.
Thank you for your indulgence,
All right,
board
thank
members.
you.
I appreciate that.
All right. Just for a matter of record, who else was here for this first application? Okay. I understand you took time to come down here. We appreciate your time. If the applicant should proceed with their work, that'll be handled through the staff. Okay? Thank you. I'll give everyone an opportunity to depart at this time. All right, let's go to the next application. This would be 6448, 1458 Duval Street. Mr. Byrd? Your
Jerry
name
Byrd.
and address for the record.
Sir.
Name and address for the record.
Jerry Byrd, Bird Surveying, 2609 Halls Mill Road, Mobile. For the applicant.
All right. Your application is recommended for approval, subject to conditions and comments from the staff. As the representative for the owner, are you in agreement?
Yes, we are.
Okay. Any questions of the board for the applicant's rep? All right. Is there anyone here either in favor or opposition to the application today? Okay. That'll conclude the public hearing on that application. Staff states that it won't be contrary to public interest. Existing restaurant has been there for 35 years with no complaints. Special conditions were illustrated. Spirit of the chapter will be observed and substantial justice shall be done to the surrounding area by granting the variance. Obtain the normal building permits and full compliance with municipal codes and ordinances. Chair, entertain a motion.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Have a motion to approve, subject to staff's recommendations, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, thank you. Next application, 6449. This is regarding 2908 Old Shell Road. Mr. Martin?
John Crenshaw, 8024 Murray Hill Road. I'm the surveyor with the applicant. Just wanted to verify the what was approved and what was denied. Our approval was on U Street for the setback and for Henley Avenue, and we would maintain the setback for Old Shell Road.
There's quite a bit of discussion on yours. You want to help us, Margaret?
Okay, what's the question?
What's been approved and not approved?
What's been recommended?
Yes.
Basically, we have recommended the setback along Hemley. Hemley dead ends. It does not come through. It dead ends here at the railroad track. You have the radius dedication here. We are recommending denial of the setback along U Street. We are still looking for the 5 feet of dedication on the subdivision, which is coming before the Planning Commission this Thursday. And we are looking for a 25-foot setback along U, which could be accomplished potentially by mirror imaging the site plan. If you noticed here, you do not have as much depth in the lot, whereas you have way more, well, there's 40-something feet here until you hit the radius, and then you have 105 feet over here. So you could maintain this size building, flip it over here, provide your setback and your parking. So, approval on Hemley, denial along U.
Okay. The one reason we were on Henley Avenue was to get a visual look of the front of the building coming along Old Shell. But if we can't maintain that, then we'll just we'll have to go with recommendations.
You have the underpass here.
Correct.
You could see it there.
Where we'll just be seeing the back of the building from Old Shell instead of the front, basically.
That's something you can work with your designer on.
Okay.
Okay.
Any questions of the board for the applicant? So, just to re-clarify, setback on Hemley acceptable?
Yes, sir. We have agreed to that setback or have recommended that setback. And we've also recommended that on the subdivision plat pending the commission's approval this week.
Okay. All right. Anyone in the audience either in favor or opposition to the application today? Okay. Once again, any questions of the board for the applicant? All right. Thank you, sir. That concludes the public hearing on this application. Any questions of the board for the staff? You want to wait till we? I guess they don't really care to hear what we have to say as we end this application.
he actually say that? So, he just wanted clarification, right?
I don't think Mr. Anderson and I heard anything that y'all didn't hear.
Yeah, right,
So.
okay. Yeah, but y'all are so much smarter than we are.
Okay.
I guess I have a question, Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
as it relates to what we are pending. As it relates to what we are pending from the Planning Commission, amplify that for me. Give me some clarification on that.
Yes, sir. It's pending before the Planning Commission for a subdivision. The property as it currently exists, if you see all these little dashed lines running through it, those are lot lines. And so the subdivision is eliminating all of those lots and making this all one lot. On a subdivision plat, as part of the subdivision regulations, a 25-foot setback line is shown on the plat, which mirrors the zoning ordinance requirements. However, if the board approves this variance today, we have recommended to the Planning Commission that the setback line on that subdivision plat along Hemley Street be modified to 12 feet instead of the standard 25 foot.
Yes. My deeper question now is that would it be to the advantage of the applicant to wait until we jump the hurdle with the Planning Commission?
No, sir, because in terms of the reduced setback, whatever setback this board approves is what the Planning Commission will require on that subdivision plat. So let's say, for instance, the board decided to deny the application, this request pending today. I'm just saying that hypothetically for this discussion. Then the setback line on the subdivision plat would remain at 25 feet along all three street frontages.
Okay.
Do we have any public comments on this application?
No, sir.
Okay. So, it would appear the Hemley setback requirement, a reduction to 12 is not necessarily a problem, but the 25 foot for U Street would be.
Correct.
So, and the staff's recommended that. I would make a motion to approve only the Hemley setback to 12 foot. And all other requests denied. And the applicant can work with that based on staff's recommendations.
Did you make that motion, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'll
That is
second
a
that
motion. Have a second. Do we have any further discussion? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, we'll move on to the next. This would be application 6450 regarding 1654 Woodley Road. Is this correct? Good afternoon. Your name and address. You might want to pull the mic down just a hair. There you go.
My name is Deidre Craig. I'm here on behalf of Healthy Habits for Creative Children
Your
Home
address,
Daycare,
Your address, please.
1654 Woodley Road.
Okay. And your
I'm Deidre Craig.
Your application has been recommended for denial. You want to tell the board why we should consider otherwise?
Well, I am the owner and the operator of Painting Healthy Habits for Creative Children Home Daycare. I run a safe and healthy licensed home daycare for 5 children, and my parents are complaining about having to separate their siblings. So that's why I'm here trying to get assistance for the increase of children. And the use of variance.
How long has your daycare been operational?
Since 2018.
So it's 3 or 4 years old then.
Yes, sir.
Have we had any comments regarding? Okay.
You have one comment in opposition at your desk.
Okay.
Ron Diaz. Do I need to read this? Oh, okay.
No, you don't have to read it. We have a copy here.
Yes, sir.
Just going back through the information regarding your application.
I did submit pictures.
Pardon?
I did submit pictures.
Okay. I think I remember looking at. Any questions of the board?
4. To up to 10.
Each time we've had one of these applications, there's been a discussion that there's upgrades to the
Yes, sir.
facility that are required.
And I'm in process of doing those now.
Like sprinkler system or fire code requirements and things like that. Have you been in contact with this? I guess it would be the state, right, from a public health standpoint?
She's working through Department of Human Resources in terms of her child care license, but the fire code compliance is through the City of Mobile Fire Department, their Bureau of Fire Prevention. They review these applications, give these comments, and then when permits are obtained, they will review those as well, and the individual suppression system permit applications, sprinkler systems.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
this letter of opposition that is before me right now speaks about the residents of Woodley Road, Mercedes Road, LaRuth Road, and Sandalwood subdivision. They're asking that this be disallowed, and says that if it's allowed, would contribute to the decreased home values, increase public traffic, bring non-residents into our family neighborhood, and then continue the downward trod of the community. What's your response to that?
Well, sir, I have the amount of yardage space as far as my yard would house up to 10 or 12 cars. My driveway is 160 feet long, 55 feet wide, and I have a double garage that holds the cars for my staff.
How many employees do you have normally?
Right now, it's just me and my daughter, and I have 2 substitutes when we're absent.
Okay. Any additional questions of the board?
Quick question. And so you mentioned that some of your customers or parents they're parking in the yard.
Parking in the yard?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. You mentioned you had plenty of room in the yard for them to park.
Well, with saying that, they won't be in front of the neighbor's yard, cutting off from their, making it difficult for the neighbors to be able to leave, come to and from.
And so you're utilizing the yard for parking in addition
My
to your
yard.
driveway?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Once again, any other questions of the board? You go ahead, sir. I'm sorry. I think the reason why this is for the board's consideration is it's in.
Back in the late 1980s, home daycares came before the Board of Adjustment as an administrative review. To have a home occupation, a home-based business, only the people that live there can work there, and there is to be no customer-client traffic to and from the home. Based on those restrictions, home-based daycares were essentially prohibited. So this was brought before the board as an administrative review. At that time, the board determined, and then it became a matter of, I don't think law is the correct word, but it became the zoning ordinance standard that a home-based daycare is allowed in an R1 area with up to 6 children. Only the people that live there can work there. However, there is an allowance because DHR requires it for you to have a substitute. So if the people that live there are sick, on vacation, they have a backup that is there to take care of the children. So that is how this standard came to be. Now, I believe that since that time, the late 80s is a while, DHR has amended their standards for home daycare. I think it's now dropped down to 4 or 5 children. 5. But again, that is still within the parameters of that decision rendered by the board back in the late 1980s. You have had before you previously and before you now a request for 10 children, and that is because that is not in compliance with the standard set by the board for the maximum number of children in a home-based daycare.
Okay. Thank
But there are 10 of us 10 of home daycare providers that have they've been extended to 10 children.
If they're located in the city of Mobile and based in their home, they
Yes,
had to
ma'am.
come before this board.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'll have to say, for the sake of the board, we've had some applicants that we've granted the variances and some we have denied. The hardship is what the applicant has to show associated with your property, and it becomes very difficult for the board to consider because it's, as she stated, we still have other ordinances and things that apply.
Yes, sir.
That you still have to, whether we approve it or not, you still
Yes,
have to
sir.
comply with the fire code and all those other things.
And I've called Captain Allen, and he told me what to do as far as with the gas hood that I need for my kitchen, and the ramps that I need for my handicap accessory for my entrance area in the backyard. So I've gotten all that. It's just a process, having it installed.
And you're currently supervising 4
Yes, sir.
children. So
Yes,
how
sir.
did you see that you have a need to jump from 4 to 10?
From 4 to 10 because of my parents and because of due to COVID-19, a lot of them are afraid to take their children into centers, and they prefer to be in a home base where there's one-on-one, and the rules are very strict. When they come in, we do temperature checks. We have them to wear masks when they're 2 years old and up, and the parents have to do the same.
Yes.
I guess my question of concern at this point is triggered by this letter where one person is speaking on behalf of the whole community. What's your relationship with your neighbors?
What's my relationship?
Yeah. Do you have
Oh yes,
a
I
good
love my
relationship?
community. I am on the board of Leaders Shaping Leaders.
Uh-huh.
I've been on the board for a year now.
Okay. This letter speaks inclusively of the residents. And normally when a petition of opposition comes before us, it's signed individually
Yes.
by those persons. And that's my concern and question to you about your relationship with the community. I'm hearing everything that you're saying as far as being accommodating and trying to make certain that you're not irritating anybody in the neighborhood. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm interpreting this letter of
Yes,
opposition.
I make sure that the children's noise level is down. I mean, I've never had a complaint with any of my neighbors ever.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, that's what it is.
All right. Once again, any other questions of the board? Do you have anything to add? Yeah. If you've got anything to say publicly, we need to get you to give your name and address.
Alicia Francis, 1654 Woodley Road. And my mom already said it. It's just the parents, I've heard them just complaining like they'll have one sibling that goes to the daycare and they'll have another sibling that they want to go to the daycare too, but they can't because she's only allowed a certain amount and they don't want to separate them. So they're like, is there anything, she can't go against the rules and regulations. She has to come before you guys first. So that's really what she's trying to do, accommodate the parents and, the children, basically. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Mr. Schumer, I know you're not here for this application, so we have no one in opposition in the audience. Mr. Anderson, you have something?
Yes, if I may, Mr. Guest, you mentioned a minute ago that we've had a lot of these applications. You can sit down.
Yeah, you'll have a seat, please. Thank you.
And we've approved some and not approved some. And as your legal counsel, I got to make sure y'all are consistent. And I knew this was going to come up today, so I did a little research. And in your staff reports, staff does a good job of setting out criteria or a standard for a variance. But I went to my law library and this afternoon and found a couple of quotes from Supreme Court cases, which gives it another angle. And this is not directed at this lady at all or this application. It's just, this is a general reminder of what the criteria for a variance is. And I thought this language was very good. But all relevant factors, when taken together, must indicate that the plight of the premises in question is unique in that they cannot be put reasonably to a conforming use because of the limitations imposed upon them by their classification in a specific zone. So again, that just a reminder that it's the property that we have to look at and make a determination. Is it something that has to do with this property, the size, the location, the configuration that does not allow her to do what she wants to do? So I say that as a reminder to try and make y'all's job a little easier.
Okay. And it would appear that the condition is self-imposed, that they're trying to do more than what is a currently code allowed.
There's certainly a need for this kind of service
Right.
in lots of neighborhoods in our city, but that's more for a rezoning application, change in use of the surrounding area, or a increased need for particular service. That's what rezonings are for. But here you got a property in the middle of a residential subdivision, so a rezoning is not really a good option. So this is her best option.
Okay. Thank you again. All right. I believe that'll conclude our public hearing on this application. Staff's recommended for denial. The applicants shared her comments and just reasons for consideration, and Chair will entertain a motion.
Chairman, I motion that we approve it with variance being requested by her.
Okay, and that would be subject to all other codes and ordinances conditions.
Correct.
Okay, I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further comments, questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Mr. Chairman, real quick, I'm sorry, I was having a hard, did you say a motion to approve?
We have a motion to approve, subject to codes and ordinances. They'll have, the applicant would have to comply with.
And real quick, just for a matter of clarification for the board, what is the hardship that we're approving it on?
I would defer to Mr. Morris.
As a business owner myself, Covert has created a unique, I say, business agenda for all businesses now. And the need for services that we say the population is demanding now is an adjustment on every level. And I see the need, reason for wanting the adjustment due to the Covert situation. So we got an ordinance in place that's kind of a little bit outdated when it comes to talking about COVID because, you know, it created a whole new scenario in a sense. So that's where I see where there's creating a hardship if we deny her this. And that's my view.
Thank you.
All right, any further questions? All those in favor of the motion say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Opposed.
Raise your hand if opposed, so I know. Okay. So the motion fails, therefore your application was denied based on the failure to approve. Wish you well. All right. Let's go to the next application, which is, nope. Where's Mr. Schumer's here? I've lost track of it. There it is. 6451 regarding 5050 Moffett Road.
3213 Midtown Park South, David Schumer representing the owner. This is an odd-shaped lot. It's a dental office that he's proposing to be placed here. And there's a large Moss water line and sewer easement that it has 3 large water lines that pull water from Big Creek Lake towards the treatment plant. And to put the whole development on the north side of it would get it pretty far away from the road where, you know, as a commercial business, they like to be close to the road, and to split it would be off. So we developed in front of the easement, but that yielded, we have plenty of overall landscape area, as you can see, but the frontage landscape area could not be met. So we are asking for a variance on the frontage landscape area.
Okay, any questions of the board for the applicant? You're going to have fun putting a detention pond.
I'm having to jump through a handful of hoops to get the detention pond to have pipes cross that easement.
That's why I'm getting. That's where I'm coming
the
from.
surveyor had to pothole all of the utilities so that we could get it defined on either end, so that we could get a defined depth of the utilities. And we're having to put, the pipes are almost going to be on top of the ground or about split with fill on top to make sure we have the cover. They don't want us to break the pipes that go to Big Creek Lake.
No, we don't either. Did you consider an underground system within the parking lot?
We would still have to discharge it. The property also slopes to the north. So everything would still have to discharge at some way to get to the north. So to put an underground system in, the whole site would have to be elevated enough to where the discharge was above the ground where we hit the easement.
Yeah,
or at least at a cover that would give us to where they weren't worried about,
Okay.
washing out their pipes.
All right, any questions of the board for the applicant? Staff recommends approval, and the applicant stated that based on the easements, and they have ample coverage on the back for landscaping. All right, I guess that concludes our public hearing on this application. Once again, we have no one in the audience either in support or opposition other than Mr. Schumer today.
I like when I have a clear hardship.
Yeah.
I like when that shows up.
Well, I don't know. All right, Chair, entertain a motion. Have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Anyone else have any comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. All right, Mr. Anderson, we have anything for today? All right, see you, Mr. Schumer. We don't have any cases out there after all these years? All right.
Mr. Chairman.
Motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I've got a question
Oh, yeah.
real quick. Just following up on the daycare, because I do feel like that they're coming up a lot and just trying to figure out consistency. I mean, personally am very sympathetic and would like to see, but like today, I mean, based on your reading of that, I was having a hard time figuring out what is the hardship of the property. It's really that these people, I mean, there's a need out there and they want to expand to accommodate that need, but it really doesn't have anything to do with the hardship of the property, which is the standard we're supposed to make the decision on.
Exactly right. I don't think any of the daycares like this, home daycares, have come before the board in the last couple of years really meet a hardship. Are they reasonable? Are they needed? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But we gotta play with the rules and the laws that are given to us, and you just can't manipulate that scenario into a hardship in 90-something% of the cases.
Is there a solution other than, I mean, is it updating the ordinance, or what's the solution? Because it seems like to me that these are just going to keep coming.
Margaret had an idea. She mentioned to me during the meeting, you want to.
The way they're regulated via the zoning ordinance now goes back to that 1988, 89 admin review. I can work with Mr. Anderson on the potential of having that come back before the board in terms of establishing a maximum number of children and employees. Bear in mind, though, and you've seen this over your years serving with the board, whatever standard the board comes up with is the standard that will be applicable citywide for every R1 home, regardless of its size, the lot size, etc. But we can look at doing that. Now, I can say I do feel as a professional planner that a commercial daycare in a residential area where there are no limits on the number of daycare students and the number of daycare employees, I feel very strongly that that is incompatible with any R1 single-family residential district. But reevaluating the maximum number of children, the maximum number of employees, maybe even hours of operation, if that is something the board would like for us to do some research on, I can follow up with Mr. Anderson on the proper way to get that before the board.
And I think that's a good idea. Because that's my concern is that, again, wanting to help and realizing there's a need, but also I don't have a good sense of, 5 to me seems like a pretty small limit that probably is not very,
No, I'm going to say no to that. And it was 6, and it was 6 because at the time that number was decided by the board, it corresponded with the number that DHR had for the maximum number of children in a home daycare. it was compatible. But DHR's requirements have changed. For a home daycare, they've lowered to 5. And then you have a group daycare, which I believe is at 10, which is why you're seeing a lot of the requests for 10. You have had a couple of requests, though, which were for basically a commercial daycare.
What's the difference between a group daycare and
That is a DHR determination, but what we see from our applications and interaction with the applicants is it's the number of students that are allowed, 5 versus 10, and the number of employees that are required. I'm sure there's a lot of other things that I'm not aware of.
And one thing that comes to my mind is there a real difference if you're living next door to this property? Is it a difference between 5 and 10 kids? Probably not. But because of our building code, when you go to that number, it takes it into a commercial enterprise because you have a sprinkler system, required parking. So it just takes that number, even though it might be insignificant, excuse me, it takes it to another level of type of building. And that's why it's not arbitrary. And there's a fine line there of what's good for a neighborhood and what's not.
Oh, the other part of this is if they can even meet the conditions for DHR and the fire code and all the
Yeah,
other.
absolutely. Yeah.
Some of those applicants that we've possibly approved in the past couldn't meet those conditions.
I think we have one that is actively trying to comply out of the ones that have been approved by this board. The rest of them, in terms of trying to comply with fire code compliance, has just not been something that they have been able to pursue. Yeah, as well. And it is the sprinkler system for the whole house, which this one applicant that I can think of already knew, but the suppression system in her kitchen for the hood for the oven, that was not something that she was aware of, but she is, it's my understanding, still pursuing it.
Okay. Formally, I'll make a motion that we ask for a review and give us guidance regarding both numbers, other conditions that may apply. I think parking is the one I keep thinking of. You know, we had the issue with the parking on this one, and you know, they had a very wide driveway, but it necessarily wasn't, you know. No, the yard is where, yeah, you picked up on that part of it, but. Yeah. So, all right, do we have a second for that motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All right, that'll conclude.